Hey guys, it's Tuesday.
You know what that means.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Amber.
And this is True Crime and Chill.
So, it's been nearly 2 years since I had my first date with my boyfriend, and he still teases me about one of the first things we talked about.
Well, I know I vaguely remember you meeting him after you got back from Egypt, so let me guess, it was about that.
No, actually, I had just signed up for a CrossFit class.
Excuse me?
Yeah, no, I started CrossFit. I did it for about a year. I haven't because the gym was actually a lot more expensive than what fit in my budget. But I like it when I'm in the habit of exercise because I feel good. So I also took a self-defense class not that long ago from a teacher that taught, I don't know if you heard about the lady that beat up her 2 attackers on the waterfront trail.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know about it, we have a big main trail that runs along the waterfront, and she was out running, and 2 guys attacked her, and she beat the crap out of them, and it was like this great empowerment story for the women in our community.
It was actually really funny, honestly, considering all the crap that has happened on the waterfront trail.
Yep. So today I want to discuss a case in which, unfortunately, fitness didn't help. So in the early hours of April 16th of 2016, around 5 a.m., people arrived for a Camp Gladiator fitness class taught by the instructor Terry Bevers, also known as Missy. They often arrived early to help set up and to be at class on time. And normally the class would be taken outdoors, but it was raining that day. And Missy had posted on her Facebook wall the day before that even though it was raining, they were still training.
Oh my God, that sounds like the motto from the military. If it ain't raining, we ain't training. Hated that shit. Oh my God, we would wake up for PT, at 5 a.m, and I go outside and be like, it's pouring cats and dogs. And my sergeant would be like, it's the best time to work out. And I'd be like, what are you smoking right now? Like,
5 a.m. It's too early for me. Like if I'm out of bed by 8, like that's good for me. But when her students
I'm always
arrived
out of
for
bed
the
by 8 because of the kids.
Well, Taylor fortunately gets up. He's an early bird, so he's up way before I am. But when her students arrived for her 5 a.m. class, they discovered her battered and beaten body surrounded by glass. They quickly called 911, and when the paramedics arrived, they gave the worst news imaginable. Missy Bevers, wife and mother of 3, was dead.
I mean, sure, people probably fantasize about beating up their fitness instructor when they're like in the middle of a workout, but like I don't think people would actually do it. Was she actually well liked at all?
She was. Lots of people were absolutely shocked and stunned at the news. They said she was the type of person everybody loved, and she made friends with everyone everywhere she went. Also, this being a small town, it was really rare for something like a murder to happen. When the police began investigating, they discovered that the motion-activated security cameras at the church were set off around 3:50 a.m. by a person walking through the Creekside Church of Christ holding a hammer. He or she carried the hammer in their left hand, and the hammer was found to be consistent with Missy Bevers' wounds. The suspect is shown breaking windows and going through offices. They're wearing a black helmet, black boots, black gloves, and a black vest with police in white lettering on the front and back. Their walking gait is very distinct, and their feet are turned outwards, and it's been theorized that they could have been wearing shoes that were too large for them. At 4:16 a.m., Missy Bevers arrived, and the murder was not caught on camera. Missy had multiple puncture wounds to her head and chest, and nothing seemed to be taken from the church. Immediately after her killing, police released the surveillance footage of this mystery person wandering the halls in the gear and swinging what appears to be a hammer, like I said before. And I'd like to show you the surveillance video. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch along with us. But if you're listening to the podcast, the video will be available on our website, truecrimeandchill.com. And we'll talk about it while we're watching it. This is actually from the Midlothian police. So you see them come in.
Oh, okay. So he's inside. I was thinking it was like, outside.
No. No, it's indoors. And you see this person coming through, opening doors, checking
Checking
things
doors.
out. Right. Uh, Sort of going through things.
It kind of doesn't look like they're oh god, what is it? It kind
See,
of doesn't
like
look like they're looking for
checking
anything
the walk.
specific. It looks like they're just snooping.
Right. Yeah, the way that this person is walking through, it's sort of like a casual. But see, like this door is locked and they're trying to pry the door open with a crowbar. Like this person is obviously there to cause some kind of mischief, but it wasn't like 2 in the morning. This is at 4 in the morning. 3:50 to be exact. And
Yeah.
you see, like they're just there seems they just kind of are wandering around.
But like I know like most churches, especially if they're like doing business on a weekday, like they don't open normally until like 7 or 8. So I mean, even them being here in this time frame is still like it's still kind of safe for them because they don't really have to worry about people coming in. They obviously knew that there were security cameras in the church though, because they're not just like in normal
Did they though?
clothes. They're completely dressed like they're
That's true.
concealing themselves, especially if those shoes are too big for them. Like that's like criminal 101. Always wear shoes that are like different than your size so that way if
It's
they do shoe
speculation
prints, you can
though.
never be pinned.
Right. It's speculation. So I'll talk about it again in a minute, but the police said that this was not actual tactical gear. It's just a costume. So
Oh yeah.
whoever it was is not, they didn't like rob the police station. Okay. So that's,
And so
hold
they
on.
may not have like expected Missy to be there.
Well,
Like it
that's
looks
the
like
thing.
because it looks like they were just like because it looks like they were just walking around, going into like rooms, kind of just poking around, being nosy and stuff, and it kind of sounds like they like some like because like Missy got there like what 20 minutes after like they arrived and stuff, and so she probably stumbled upon this person, and instead of having the cops be called on them, they just like they probably didn't mean to kill her, but they just beat her to death.
What, with a hammer? I mean, but the other side
But
of
I mean,
that though is that
if you're going somewhere to cause mischief though and stuff and to like damage property, you're gonna want something to damage that property. It doesn't look like they were
sure,
looking for somebody in particular. It looks like they just wanted to go and cause trouble.
possibly. And that's possible. But with that tactical gear on, Missy wouldn't have seen their face. So they easily could have just run.
Yeah, but how many serial killers or how many like murders start out with just, oh, I was just going to cause some trouble and they just happened to be there?
Sure. Local law enforcement says that the gear is not actual tactical gear, like I said before, and police estimate that the person caught on tape is 5'8" plus or minus an inch. They originally stated that the suspect was male, but they have since stated the suspect may be of either gender. And the the suspect's feet appear to turn outward and away from the body, more predominantly the right foot. And investigators are interested in people who have similar walks or gaits or may have had a similar style of walking around that time, because it's possible that this walk was caused by a temporary condition or injury or something else, that the suspect no longer actually walks this way.
Okay. So with the walk and everything, like it could have been completely different thing. Like I said, they probably could have been wearing shoes that were too big for them, or it could have
Mhm.
been a very specific gait. However, if it's that small of a town, somebody would have remembered somebody in that town having that gait. So one of two things is here for me. Either it was somebody from
Mhm.
out of town that nobody really knew, or it
Right.
was wearing two different shoes. I know that when I don't know if you remember this, but I think I was in like God, 10th grade? It was like the summer after 10th grade. No, the summer after ninth grade or whatever. It was about ninth or 10th grade or whatever. It was during the summer break or something. Guys tried to set the high school on fire. I don't know if you remember about that. Where they like completely
Don't.
destroyed. So they went in, and so like for people who don't know, for people who are not from Port Angeles and everything, because I do know we have a few listeners from Port Angeles, our high school had like the main building, And then we had buildings all around the high school that were all the different things. To get to every single building, you had to be outside. You had to walk outside.
Yeah,
So our
you had
library was
to.
actually in a bigger building and stuff. And it was actually a pretty decent sized library. However, the thing is our school was made out of bricks, okay? Not exactly flammable. So
No.
these guys went in with the intent to burn our school down. And they ended up realizing, oh, they can't because, it's brick and it's not flammable. So they broke into the 100 Hall, which is the main part of the school. And that's where, like,
Where the
the
office
offices
is,
are,
yeah.
the principal's office, the front office, all that and everything. And that's where a lot of the classes are, is where a lot of the senior lockers and stuff were at the time and stuff. And they took trash cans from, like, the bathrooms and stuff and up and down the hallway, filled them with
I do
paper, and
remember
then
this.
set them on fire. Yeah.
Yes, I do remember
So
this now.
we ended up having to have the whole hallway for the 100 Hall redone because thankfully, like, there was no actual fire damage in the 100 Hall, but there definitely was a lot
Right.
of smoke damage. So we had to have the
Right.
whole
And
100
wasn't
Hall
there
redone.
damage
The
from the water from the
library,
sprinkler?
the library, however, because of all of the carpet and all of the books and all of the computers, was just, they went in and they completely destroyed this place. They set it on fire. Like, I remember the library was closed down like the first month of school when we came back because they were rebuilding the library and they were trying to get everything good in there. So,
Right.
our school had security cameras before that because I guess, like, because, like, people, like, were dumb and stuff. And so, like, our school had security cameras at least in the 100 Hall, I believe. I don't think they
Yeah.
put security cameras all over the school, but they at least had them in the 100 Hall. The 100 Hall
They
captured
did, because
the
somebody did
guys.
that my senior year. They lit a garbage
Yeah.
can on fire in
So,
that boys' bathroom. Yeah.
yeah, so they had cameras in the 100 Hall. They put them all over the school after that point. But so the boys, and I'm saying it's the boys because it was all boys and stuff, did this, and they were all caught on camera. Okay, they all had, like, bandanas over their faces, and they all had, like, ball caps that were pulled down and everything. And almost every single one of them was, like, undetectable. Like, they couldn't make out who it was except for one, and this was a guy who was in my class. Like, I went through elementary, middle school, high school, like, and the reason why he was so detectable wasn't because of a walk or a gait. It was because he had an afro. So his hair, so Joe's hair, that's the guy's name, was like, and he was very noticeable for his hair because that's who he was. That's all, we all knew him. So he's very noticeable for his hair. So the police ended up releasing footage from this, like, from the fire and stuff and everything, to, like, the news and be like, hey, these are the suspects, if any of you guys can recognize them. And right away they started getting calls at the police station. This is Joe McCarthy, this is Joe McCarthy, this is Joe McCarthy, nobody else, just Joe. And so they brought Joe in, and he kind of, like, sang like a bird and, like, gave everybody else out. But the thing is we have a very small town, so everybody knew what he looked like because of his hair. So I feel like if this person was regular in this town and grew up in this town with everybody, and they had this gait, even if it was like a temporary thing, like, they sprained their ankle or something, then somebody would have noticed it. Somebody would have been like, oh, hey, Bob Jones over here had that same walk around this time, but it went away because his leg healed. So to me, it feels
Right.
like it's only like, to me, it feels like either it's somebody who was passing through and who wasn't really well known in the town at the time, or they were
Right.
wearing different size shoes, which could kind of cause their feet to go out.
Sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the suspects, because so, like I said before, Missy was a married mother of 3, and she was very active in the community. And Missy and her husband Brandon were reported to be having financial and marital issues. However, even though Brandon was kind of an immediate suspect, he was 600 miles away on a fishing trip when the murder happened.
Yeah. I mean, was he with anybody, though? Well, I mean,
I don't know. But it was known that he was off on this fishing trip.
Okay, but let's be real here. We've all seen a new episode of Unsolved Mysteries. We all know about the dude that probably killed his wife, who has all the evidence from the fact that he was nowhere near her shop when she died, but yet...
Right. So there was also a surveillance video of a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima, which has not yet been identified, and it was captured on the surveillance equipment of a nearby business in the early morning hours before the murder. And the vehicle was driving slowly around the closed business nearby. The driver turns the lights off and on multiple times and then parks for a short time before exiting the parking lot. Investigators are apparently still interested in locating this vehicle, but they do not think it has anything to do with Missy's murder. I want to show you the surveillance video of this as well. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can watch along with us. And if you're listening to the podcast, the video will be available on our website, truecrimeandchill.com. Pause that. This one's really suspicious to me. And it surprises me that they don't think it's relevant. Considering it was a business.
They sometimes say that too, where they think, it's not relevant, but they say that to have somebody come forward, because if people think, oh, well, I'm going to be a suspect if I come forward, they don't always want to come forward and say something.
Let me show you this video though, because it's really suspicious. So this car is driving down the road. It's clearly raining very hard. And you'll notice before they turn in, they turn their headlights off.
Don't be suspicious.
Right?
Don't be suspicious.
Right. So then they kind of drive around. You see it again from a different angle. As they're turning, they turn the headlights off. And again, this is 4 a.m, right? Why would they need to turn their headlights off that early? And of course, they've got brake lights, so that shows. And then see again, though, the headlights are off. They're pulling around. But they don't suspect this vehicle, which is weird to me.
It's almost like whoever is driving this car, again, knows that they have security cameras, knows that they are being watched, but they know there's another car right there.
Right. See, but if you look, this car is slowing down, it's checking things out. See, turning the lights on and off. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's kind of like they knew that where certain security cameras were, the one where it was close up of the car, basically, where if they had their lights on, we'd be able to see a license plate and stuff.
I don't get the flashing though. Why turn them off and turn them on again and stop and go? And this is super suspicious. And it's right around the same time as the guy who broke in.
It's probably the police do think that this car does have something to do with everything. However, they don't want to say that, because if somebody knows something about this car and they're just afraid to come forward because they think, oh, they might be a suspect if they give information about this car or something might go wrong, then that might be it. So maybe being hey, we saw this car. We don't suspect anything from it. However, we would like to maybe talk to this person to see if they saw anything while they were there.
Right. Well, so and the other piece of it though is if nobody's identifying this car, if nobody's identifying this car and it's a small town, it could prove that theory that it was somebody passing through causing mischief. Well, why would they pick a church?
Exactly. Honestly, so churches are easy targets.
My church got robbed a couple times because of all the sound equipment. It was really expensive sound equipment and got stolen. But for the most part, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to rob a church.
Churches are easy targets. Some of them do have alarm systems, but they definitely aren't as locked down as say a bank or a store. Though churches are, churches, they do have stuff that you can take from there that you can sell, money from collections that's in the pastor's office, stuff like that. So it's churches, when people look at things to attack or vandalize or do anything, churches aren't exactly a first thing, but it is definitely one where I can see if somebody wants to cause trouble but also doesn't want to alert the police right away. They would pick that, because the thing is if an alarm goes off at a church, 9 times out of 10 what's going to happen is the alarm company is going to call the church, the pastor or whoever owns the church first before it actually before they actually call the police, because it might be the pastor getting in or one of the workers.
This car stays
just
parked.
Sits and chills.
Nobody gets out. It just sits there parked in the rain. and then they just turn the lights on and they leave again.
And when was this taken? Like, what time was this taken?
I don't know. It doesn't have a time on it. It just has the date. But this was
Like,
right
because
around
if this was taken around the time that the person broke in, then that might be why the car was moving around, because they may have dropped the person off. The person may have walked into the parking lot without, or maybe have gone into the parking lot, because obviously the person is going to be caught on cameras in the parking lot. If the car was caught on camera,
Yeah.
the person's going to be caught on camera. So they may have dropped the person off, and maybe two people were involved in this. They may have dropped the person off. The person may have broken into the church, looked around, did what they needed to do, and then the person who was supposed to be driving them either left with them or left without them. But that also doesn't explain, because you don't see Missy pull in at any time during that.
No, because I don't believe that the church had
Unless she
surveillance
did.
video around it, just on the inside.
Unless she did, but the police aren't showing it.
It's possible. I mean, it's possible.
Well, because like, I mean, in another case that we're eventually going to discuss, like, there is one still image from a surveillance camera from this girl's apartment as she's leaving. Okay.
Mhm.
It's not even like a video. It's a still image. And the only reason the police ever released that was because they needed, like, they needed like a picture of what she was wearing the night she went missing to show the public.
Right.
But they haven't released the full
Right.
CCTV footage. They haven't released any other camera footage that they found. Nothing. The public, not even her parents, have seen this footage. So it's entirely possible that there's more to this footage than what we're seeing. Like with the Gannon Stout case that was up here. Like, we, as the public, there was a video that was released that we only saw part of it, and that was her getting into the truck. It wasn't her getting in the truck with him. It was just her getting in the truck. So everybody was like, oh, like, he wasn't there and everything. But what we didn't know is that there was another video showing him getting into it on the other side.
Right.
But the police have that video. We've never seen that video because the police haven't released it yet.
They don't release everything. Right. On purpose, they don't.
So there could be video out there of Missy going into the parking lot and then going into the church with that person in there.
Right. Well, and investigators are still actively working on this case, and they're focusing time between reviewing existing case files as well as investigating new leads. And this includes assistance from multiple law enforcement agencies and forensic experts. There was a firearm recovered from the scene, but it was confirmed to belong to Missy. It was not used during the crime, and it was located inside Missy's vehicle. So obviously she didn't feel safe a lot of the time. Police also sent DNA that was found at the scene of the crime to a crime lab, and it yielded no results because, unfortunately, they did not have enough of a sample to perform the test. Many people do not consider a burglar to be a plausible killer, even though it is thought that the person in the video is smashing glass and opening doors to possibly make it look like a break-in. But again, it was at 4 a.m., which is strangely close to the time that she would have been there. And it seems as though the person knew when Miss would be arriving, right?
Exactly.
So if this was somebody,
you said she had a Facebook page for this, right?
She had a Facebook page for her class, and it even she posted an image saying, even though it's raining, we're still training, and it talked about where and when her classes were. She had one at 5 a.m. and then she had another one at 9 a.m. At a different location.
Yeah, so whoever did it could have possibly looked at her Facebook page and been like, there we go.
Right. Exactly. Like, it's almost like they knew when she was going to be there, and they kind of like went through and did some things to make it look like a burglary, even though that might not be really what it was.
But they also would have had to know that she would have shown up early too.
Right. So what's interesting is, and I didn't even think about this until you were talking about that video with Ultima, but a lot of the evidence points to Randy Bevers, Missy's father-in-law. A few days after Missy was murdered, Randy Bevers was noticed bringing a blood-stained shirt to the cleaners, which was a woman's double XL t-shirt. And Randy claimed it was blood from a dog injury, and supposedly his vet confirms this story. Randy is around the same height and weight as the person in the surveillance footage, and Randy has a motive to free his son from this financially strained relationship, as Missy may have also been cheating on her husband as well. Some reports say, in fact, that it's possible she was cheating with either members of law enforcement and or instructors of her class. So Randy also, for the record, has a nearly identical walking gait.
Okay, yeah. So gotta love in-laws. But so
Right.
her husband, so I mean, was her husband cheating on her as well, or was she just
It came out after she passed that she had been having at least one affair. And so
okay? But let's
people think that, well, so because this person was wearing like a police uniform, some people think that it was like
yeah.
a warning to Missy, like to stop messing around with law enforcement. But what's interesting is that Randy Bevers also has an alibi, and he was apparently traveling to California during the time of the murder.
So I really think that it's interesting that both dad and father-in-law were out of town during this murder. But here's my
Right.
thing,
And
okay?
what I didn't piece together though,
If like
what's
Randy and
interesting
his
though is you said
son,
it's possible two people are involved, right? So it's possible that it was the father-in-law who did it because the husband couldn't, but he dropped him off and then just sort of drove around in that other car.
yeah, exactly. Like, because here's the thing: if eventually does come out that like Randy did kill Missy, then obviously he's not gonna say that, oh, I killed him because I killed her and it was my son who helped. He's going to go to his grave saying it was just him. if if they had hired somebody, obviously that person would be like, nah, these two guys hired me to do this, I'm not going down for them. Like, their plan would be up in smoke. But like, here's my thing: cheating does not warrant death. Like, if you're really that pressed about it, then get a divorce.
Yeah. Right.
Like, good God. And
I mean,
the fact that, like, did Randy have Randy have somebody going to California with him?
I believe his wife.
I mean, you never know. But if she was in on it too, like,
Maybe.
sounds like a
I mean,
family affair.
it's just interesting that they were both conveniently out of town, like almost as if they knew something was going to happen. And her husband, what's really interesting though, is her husband, Brandon, says he doesn't think his wife knew the person who killed her.
Why would he, like, how would he know that though?
Right. No, totally. I mean, it's possible that because Missy was the kind of person who made friends with everyone, it doesn't make sense to her have known for her to have known the person who killed her. But that's a really bold statement from somebody who's not a police officer to say, "Nah, I don't think she knew who killed her."
Exactly. Like, I mean, because did they find any defensive wounds on her body?
I don't believe so. No, she was
Like,
bludgeoned to
because
death.
like
So
here's the thing:
if she
if
was
you don't
hit with
know
a
somebody,
hammer,
but was
right?
she surprised? But like, was the initial blow to her head? Was the initial blow to her front? Because that's the thing that like does things here. Like, was she originally greeting this person and then they bapped her across the head? Like, she was doing a fitness class. She could have thought they may have been showing up for that class.
Right. And the thing is, though, again, because this case
We
is
don't know
still
if he was
open,
wearing the police
there's a
uniform.
lot of stuff they're not releasing because it's going to be stuff that only the killer knows. Right.
Well, and I
So they
also
can't.
feel that maybe her murder. I also feel that maybe her murder was caught on camera, but the police aren't saying that because they don't want to release it because there's a lot of stuff. Or we don't know. All we saw was them just going around this church in a police uniform, looking suspicious and causing mischief. We don't know if they eventually stripped out of that police uniform and approached Missy like in normal clothes as a normal person and stuff. We don't know if they just jumped out of the rafters and just bashed her head in. We don't know anything. All we
Well,
know
we
is that
also
she was
don't
beat to death
know.
with a.
I mean, if
We know
this
she was beat to
person,
death with a hammer and that this person was lurking around.
right. And if this person knew where all the security cameras were, then they would know where to commit the crime so it wasn't on camera.
Exactly. And it seems like it seems like the person who was driving the car and the person who was in the church knew where the security cameras were. Because if they didn't know that there were security cameras in the church, if they didn't know that, if they did know that there were, but they didn't know where they were, then they would have gone in there and dressed totally, not normal, but like, you would have been able to get some characteristics. And same with the car. If you notice, the
Right.
car turned its lights off every time it went past security camera where it was close up and stuff. So it was obviously somebody who knew the church well, which means it was somebody who lived in the town.
Potentially, yeah. Or somebody who really did research, in which case there's going to be no accident behind it.
Exactly, which means that
But
they set out to
if
kill Missy that day, which also could be backed up by the fact that, she had a Facebook page for this. She literally told people where she was
it's her
going to
business,
be.
it's her
Yeah.
business, though.
So you don't think about it when you do stuff like that. You really don't. You don't think that you're telling people where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, how long you're going to be there for. But she literally
Right.
told, and it would have to be somebody who knew that, she showed up an hour early to her classes to get everything ready instead of, 15, 20 minutes early.
Well, and she also lived just outside of town, so she would have had to have left so early in the morning. But also, what's interesting is she left to go do this class, but she had 2 kids. I don't know who was watching the kids. Like, that's not stuff that was really given either. So
Yeah,
the
like
husband was on a fishing
was the
trip.
husband watching them? Well, was the husband watching them in the beginning and then drop them off at babysitters to go fishing? Like, was Missy supposed to pick them up from the babysitters after her 9 a.m. class? Was
Right.
like,
Right.
these
And
are all things that
when you're fishing, you leave really early in the morning to get the fish. Like,
yeah.
that's really
So
normal.
yeah, my dad would leave at like 5 a.m.
Right.
But I mean, if she left at like 3 to get there by 4, then more than likely he dropped them off
Right.
at a babysitter's house. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well then, I mean, obviously it didn't get to the point where it's like, oh, well, she just never picked the kids up and everything, because obviously her entire class found her bludgeoned to death in the
Right.
classroom. But I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah. No, the whole thing is just it. And it's hard to picture somebody else when you have this sort of lingering gut feeling about, the father and his father. So Captain D. Span of the Midlothian Police Department say that Beaver's murder would most likely be solved with the public's help, which is why they released the surveillance. There was an interesting comment on a Reddit board that, if true, could very well help the case. And it's from Tattoo Mario B. And it says, "My wife was a ballet dancer when she was younger. The one part of that video where the person stops and turns and stands kind of weird with that right foot pointing outward and then strolls back down the hallway, my wife stands exactly like that before she turns around. That stance is called fifth position, if I remember what she said correctly. I may be wrong. But to me, it looks like just how my wife stands. Female, dance background. It's really bothering me now. It has to be one of the creepiest videos ever. I hope they find the POS that did this."
See, and
Now,
thinking about it now, like, I did ballet. I did ballet when I was younger. I have friends who have done ballet and tap and dance and everything all the way up into college. Like, I have friends that's what they went to college for. And so I still remember the positions for ballet and everything for how you stand. And honestly, it does kind of look like that in the video.
kind of, it does.
But
I
men
did dance for
also
many.
do ballet as well.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So
Yeah.
it's not just a
No, I
female
know.
thing. And honestly, if that was a female thing, if that was a female, they would have had to get that body shape, they would have had to like pad the outfit with like pillows or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's just this whole thing is just weird.
It is. Also, really quickly, I'm just going to kind of deviate for just a second. Last week's episode with Amityville, the curtain behind me kept moving and it was really freaking me out. And the reason is because it was not windy that day. Today, the wind is blowing significantly. And do you notice this curtain hasn't moved once? I'm still freaking out about the freaking curtain. I'm not even kidding you. It's not cool. Laugh at me all you want. It was super weird that we were covering a supernatural case and the curtain kept moving. It is windy today, and that curtain has not moved once. Sorry. Totally went off on a tangent. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see it. It moves a crap ton in the Amityville video, and I've never seen the curtain move like that. It is blowing like crazy today, not moving. So, okay. Anyway. So to go back to Missy Bevers' case, Span says that he believes somebody who has information has not yet come forward. He urges that anybody with information can anonymously call Crime Stoppers of Ellis County at 972-937-PAYS. The police department can be reached at 972-775-3333.